Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today we are going to be taking a look at Overkill's PC-1247 guide for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today I'm going to hopefully teach you guys how to fly the PC-12 like a boss, and we'll talk a bit about the guide and more that's to come with it, so stick around. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkill's tutorial guides for Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below. Alright guys, so getting right into it, you guys have probably been following my channel for a while. You guys have all seen the ads and showcase of Patreon and all the different list of guides that I make. Well, I'm about to extend that list even further. This guide is already available, guys, if you join my Patreon site. Again, $10 or more a month, and you guys have access to this guide as well as all the other guides that I currently have on Patreon. I believe this is guide number 11 for me, but it is a full flight tutorial guide that walks you through cold and dark, startup at your departure all the way to cold and dark shutdown at the destination. Currently covering RNAV approach. The next section will be, the next thing I'll be adding is ILS approach. Now I do want to give you guys a heads up on the guide. I sort of combined the two, if you will. One of the things that is currently in the guide, part of the RNAV process, but I'm getting ready to launch the next release of this guide probably tomorrow, so this will be probably obsolete by then, but I added partial steps to setting up for the ILS approach, which are good practice but not necessary, as RNAV is strictly GPS. But I did walk you guys through on how to set the VOR as well. Again, in the wrong spot. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I was very, very tired when I did that particular portion. I think it was like 1:30 in the morning when I made that chapter. So that is the only thing currently that is very critical. One of the cool things I do want to mention, guys, is just as I did a previous flight with a real-world PC-12 pilot, I did have that same pilot look over the guide, and so far he only had minor corrections. Obviously, I still have a lot to learn, but this should get you guys through the basics. Now, the guide is built around the GNS 530, you guys, and the reason why I have done that is because everybody has access to the GNS 530, and everybody has access to the working title GNS 530 with all of its cool features that it brings. So currently I have not covered the Sky4Sim EFB. That will be included in the guide as a add-on, if you will. It'll be towards the end of the chapters, but we're going to walk through the flight that I have here. I'm not going to be going page by page with this guide as I normally do. We're actually just going to be using the checklist that comes with it. But if you guys follow the guide, we are doing the same flight. We are flying from San Juan over to Princess Juliana in the Caribbean. So you guys will get to experience that as well. It is, again, the exact same flight. I'm just going to be using the actual checklist that comes with the aircraft in their documentation today. But I did want you guys to know that the guide is out and available. Let's get started. All right, so let's go ahead and get things rolling here. So this you guys can obviously do whenever you want, but let's go ahead and clear that sunshade. We're going to clear the wind visor. I'm going to set the day of time. This is a little late. I don't want a night flight tonight. Again, we're looking for an RNAV approach today, so let's make it nice and pretty. There we go. Just a pretty day. And let's see here. Let me get the checklist for this beautiful aircraft up and ready to go. I actually am going to use the guide for just a minute to get our flight plan now that I'm thinking about it. Because I do want to still fly that. There we go. The biggest thing, let me move this over here. There we go. So again, as you guys can see, even the SimBree flight plan is in here. If you guys want to match this flight exactly 1-to-1, what I would recommend doing if you're following the guide is setting live weather to off. Just set everything default. That way you don't have to worry about winds being wrong, departures being wrong, runways being wrong, etc. Okay, as long as the winds are 0, you don't have to worry about it. You can follow the guide and it would still be okay. All right, so what I'm interested in is our fuel and our weight. So let's see what we got going on here today. Let's come up here. And, oh, not weather. I need weights. Weights, sir, weights. Let's weight the aircraft. So let's see here. Currently we're at 1338, and I need to be lower than that. And let's see here. So we would be looking at, what did I say? Oh, here, let me get this off the screen. There you guys go. And it needs to be 1022 or thereabouts. And that's the other thing. I always just get close. I don't ever dial it perfectly in. I just don't. That's the beauty about simulation, is you can get away with crap like that. We go from 101 or 1104 to 1131. Really? Huh. Well, I don't want to be that far off. So, oh wait, I should be at 1023 pounds. Don't ask me what I was thinking. I have no idea. Okay. And payload should be at 2,086 pounds is what we're looking for. And there it is. All right, cool. That is that. Now I do want to get the in-game checklist up and running here. Or the PC-12 checklist, I should say. Oh, wrong one. But I'll need that later too. And that can be found in the installation directory if you guys want to pull up the PDF. That's how I like to do it. So I'm just going to my community folder. I'm finding the PC-12 from SimWorks Studio. Inside that folder, there's one that says manual, and there is checklist portrait. And that's what I like to use. All right, we got it up. And I'll show you guys what that looks like here. Here we go. Boop, there it is. So it's just a checklist, right? I moved the wrong window. I did not want to do that. Control Z. Let's go back to here and drag. There we go. See? So there we go. That's how we're going to be doing this. I'm going to be using that today. All of these steps are in the guide. They're just very, very detailed screenshots and giving you quite a bit more information than what is included on just a checklist here. It tells you a lot of the whys to why we're doing things as well. Okay, so let us begin here. We'll start walking through. I know I said that already. So, beginning with our pre-flight, we have landing gear handle is down, circuit breakers all in. Now, failures are not included in this at the moment, but they will be later on as an add-on purchase if you guys choose to rock the failures. So if you want to do that, then get in the habit of checking. So we have circuit breakers in, battery switches go up top. Battery switch 1 and 2 are off. Where was I? External power switch is off. Non-essential bus switch is in the auto position. Standby bus switch, if applicable. Not all aircraft have it, but this one does. We're going to go standby bus switch to the on position. External lights as required. Nav light always comes on. Now, a really cool tip that I'll give you guys as far as, especially if this aircraft gets state saving, is my real world pilot that I speak with quite often. Has also told me that both the nav light and the inertial separator are usually already open at engine start because they are left on from the time from the flight previously. I guess the nav lights are just never turned off, and the inertial separator, it needs to be open at engine shutdown, which is why normally it would be on as well. And it's also required to be on at engine start. So, and we'll get to that. All right, so external lights as required, and that would be the nav lights is what we specifically wanted there. So let's keep on going here. Standby bus switch on. External lights is required. Standby switch now goes to off. Battery switch goes to on. Battery 1 looking for above 24 volts. Battery 2, same thing, above 24 volts. Non-essential bus now goes to the override position. At this point, we would flip all of our external lights on. Somebody would go out, do a walk around, make sure that they're all working. Amp draw, it looks normal. And then we would come back in, shut them off, and the non-essential override switch goes back into the auto position. So with the, let's see here, back to auto, then we would do a fire test. So we're going to do a fire test. Then we're going to go down to our COS display or CADU. And we're going to look for fire, engine fire and fire detect. Come back upstairs. Fire test off, lamp test. Again, same thing. Just making sure anything that has a light bulb is currently illuminated. Okay. Coming back upstairs. Lamp test off. And boost pumps. Now, boost pumps, let's see here. Let me make sure I have the game audio up high enough. Hopefully I'll remember to turn this back down in a minute. But you can hear them. So, let's go left one. Right one. Okay. And then the same thing with ignition. Now, ignition, I'm going to show you guys a little trick. You can't really hear it, but it should be a tick, 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 tick. Now, in the real world, I have found out that they actually never open this window. It is for an emergency purpose only. I can't remember what emergency state that would be. I don't remember how he described that. But the big deal with this window is I guess it is a real pain in the you-know-what to get put back into place and sealed properly. So they never open this. But since we're in simulation, I'm going to show you guys a trick. Okay, hopefully you guys could hear the tick, 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 tick. All right, so that's the ignition. The other thing you can do is just go outside. And if you get closer, okay, so that's another trick you can do if you want to actually walk through it. And again, especially if you're someone who later on purchases the failures package, you're going to want that. Okay, so where were we? Boost pumps tested, on and then auto, ignition on and then auto, EIS system, engine instrument system. Test. Verify all gauges peak, all lights are illuminating, all digits are fully populated. Everything should go blank or go to zeros, and then we're waiting for the blank, and then wait for one more time. That's complete, okay? Now with that complete, we're going to do a fuel reset. This takes about 5 seconds to complete. And there, we should have our quantity match what you put in. Alrighty, so now we're going to go over to oxygen pressure, which is going to be at the pilot's left butt, if you will. Butt cheek. Make sure that you have enough pressure for the flight. And we're going to set the passenger oxygen to the auto position, which is your 12 o'clock position. As often as possible, clear your master caution, master warnings. Okay, that way if something else does pop up, those lights will illuminate, alerting you, hey, something is amiss. If you forget to turn those off and another error pops up, you won't know unless you're actively paying attention to your cause display as well. All right, so let's keep on going here. I'm going to turn some of the audio back down a bit. And let's see where we are at. Where were we? Oxygen pressure, passenger oxygen. Battery switch now goes to the off position. And we're going to do battery 2, then battery 1. And stepping back downstairs here. FS composite switch needs to go into the norm position. Then we're going to go to AHARS, or Attitude Heading and Reference Systems 1 and 2. Make sure they are both set to slave. Once that is complete, we're going to do an EPS, emergency power system, and we're going to go test. Make sure the battery light illuminates, and go back to the off position. Cabin pressure switch, we want to make sure that is in auto and guarded. Flap interrupt and trim interrupt switches are in norm and guarded. And oxygen supply handle goes to the on position. I guess it really does make that noise in real life too, which is kind of cool. Let's see here. Oxygen mask you would test. Cockpit cabin light switches as required. Lavatory, if applicable. If you have a lavatory, you would go back there and check it and make sure that nobody's stowed away and everything's functioning as desired. And let's see here. Aircraft exterior pre-flight would then take place at this moment. So with that in mind, let's now move to the before start. So going into the before start of the checklist, we're going to remove the control wheel lock. Now, something that I made a mistake on is I thought, okay, it's removed. I'm actually holding it. So you want to come back here, click right there and stow the control lock. Okay. And this is another point where you might remove your wind shade and set your visors, etc. Like, let's get this one out of the way. There we go. And let's see where we were here. So, control wheel lock has been removed. Parking brake is set. Wheel chocks have been removed. Fuel caps are secure. Crew and seat belts adjusted and secure. Overhead electrical switches going up top. Make sure that they are all in the off position. They are indeed. And let's see here. Standby bus now goes back to the on position. De-icing switches. Inertial separator open. There we go. And cooling and heating are all off for engine start. Seatbelt no smoking signs can now come on. We want to make sure everyone's sitting down and don't smoke in my airplane. And EPS switch or circuit breakers, you would once again verify are all in. EPS switch, we're going to go back into the test position, battery test, and then move it into the armed position. We should see the EPS light come on because the batteries are currently off. All right, so ECS switch should also, that's environmental control system, should be in the off position as well. Friction lock, that's going to be down here on the throttle. We're obviously not worried about that as it's simulation. Where was I? Moored or manual override, which is the more PCL, power control level, also known as the throttle, condition lever, as you guys know, and flaps are retracted. So these three should be fully retracted. Flaps should also be at 0. Now, going back upstairs once again, this is a lot to do for one pilot, isn't it? Battery switch 1 goes to the on position. Battery 2 goes on. Make sure, again, that we are reading above 24 volts. Nav lights are on, as we did earlier. Again, should always be the case. External power, if required, can now come on. Fuel quantity and totalizer, just like we did before, we're going to do a fuel reset on that and make sure that it is functioning as desired. I'm also going to get the avionics clicked on there, make sure that they're ready. By the way, this will come on, your nav one will come on with the standby bus. So a lot of the times I'll do my flight programming just as my real world pilot told me, with the standby bus on. If you're fast enough with it, you should be perfectly fine. Let's see here. Landing gear position lights should be indicating 3 green, and cause should be appropriate. Essential bus, obviously disabled right now as we don't have any generator or avionic or battery generator power. Gosh, I can't talk. Avionics buses are currently turned off. Gen 1, Gen 2 are off as the engine is not running. Pusher test is not being completed. Environmental control system is currently off. Cause is appropriate. All right, now let's get into the fun part, the engine start. Engine start in this aircraft couldn't be any more simpler, you guys. We're going to go upstairs. We're going to turn our beacon light on. And then as we are ready, I'm going to walk you guys through it real quick. We're going to make sure our prop area is clear, but it's Microsoft Flight Simulator, so you can never get them away from the damn plane. So we're just going to keep it as is. But you would make sure your prop area is clean. Beacon lights are on. We're going to hit the starter button. We're going to monitor NG looking for 13%. Condition lever is going to move to the ground idle position, and then we're going to monitor and make sure everything stabilizes appropriately. Starter switch should automatically go back to the retracted position. In the real world, you would be keeping your hand over the starter interrupt in case any ITT failures. For example, the ITT should not exceed 800 degrees for more than 20 seconds and shouldn't reach 1,000 degrees for more than 5 seconds. However, according to, again, my pilot, if it ever reaches 1,000 degrees, chances are it's always going to be an immediate cutoff. Okay, so we would either do cutoff or we would do a starter interrupt, depending on what stage of startup we are in. Once we pass 13%, the cut and the throttle or the condition lever goes to cutoff, your action would be cutoff. If you haven't reached the NG of 13% and you have a hung start or something like that, it would be starter interrupt. And yes, that is functional on this aircraft. So without further delay, let's do this. So we're just going to go starter. Monitoring that NG looking for 13% happens pretty quick. Condition lever to ground idle. Watching our temps, watching NG, watching torque increase. Clear the caution to reset. Left fuel pump, right fuel pumps are on. Now, I can tell you right now, because of my throttle settings. Oh, no, we're in reverse. There we go. My throttle settings, she is idling a little higher than she should, so I'm going to power up and bring it back. I have to tune my axis a little bit, so don't worry about that. We are idling a little high. But that's okay. That's me. That has nothing to do with the aircraft. This should be usually down. Torque should be down by about 2%. You know what? Let me just fix that real quick for you guys, because I want you guys to see it correct.
Warning, essential bus.
Yep.
Generator 2.
Warning us about that. So I'm going to go add action, standard access event. I'm going to do a throttle without reverser. We won't need the reverse prop today. Engine 1. I'm going to go full thrust, set, idle, set. There we go. And let's delete the other one for now. There we go. All right. So let's continue on. That is the engine start. Okay, so the sim just crashed. I've had a lot of crash at desktop since this last world update. It's kind of bumming me out. So we'll just keep fighting through, and I'll keep restarting to get this video out to you guys, because this is a good one, and this aircraft is absolutely amazing, so I want to keep it going. So let's just keep on going. We're going to start with the after start checklist. So first, we're going to verify the engine instruments are all good. Torque is set, ITT is good, NG is at idle, oil temp and oil pressure look great, fuel gauges are on point. Everything looks fantastic. So let's go upstairs. We're going to do generator always 1, then 2. Avionics 1 and 2. Okay. And let's see here. Standby bus can now go to the off position. EPS light should be out. It is indeed. ECS switch, environmental controls, can now go to auto. And flaps, we need to set to 15. Now, flaps is a requirement, guys, because without the flaps 15, you cannot complete the pusher test. What the pusher test is, or what the pusher is, you guys, is in the event that the aircraft is approaching a stall, it will automatically force the yoke forward, forcing the nose down, hopefully getting you out of a potential or active stall. Alright, so we got our avionics there. Let's see here. So, let's see here. Avionics are on. We'll also go ahead and turn on our transponder here. And we'll just set a random 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And we just want it in on for now. Alright, so now let's do the before taxi checklist. So for the before taxi checklist, the first thing that's on it is the inverter. Now, this does not have to be done in simulation. This is only for real world operation, and this is only the first flight of the day. So remember, whoever flew the aircraft before, it's going to be set on 1. So we would come in here and flip it to whatever it was opposite. So at the end of our flight, the end of our day, we'll leave it on battery. Whoever takes the aircraft over tomorrow would flip it back to invert generator 1, and they would leave it there the entire day. Alright, so now that you guys have an understanding of how that part works, let's keep on going and see what we got going on. So now it's the pusher test. So this confuses a lot of people to this day, so hopefully we get this down in the first try. So essentially, we're going to depress the pusher. We're going to increase power. When we increase power, the yoke is going to start to shake, and then it is going to go towards the wall. We are going to reduce power back to idle. We are then going to be pulling back on the yoke. Get ready to. You're going to push the pusher interrupt, push the yoke back, okay? Come upstairs, depress the pusher button to release it, then wait for the pusher alarm to come back on, and then release the pusher interrupt, and it should clear the cause message. Don't worry about the AOA de-ice. It's because we have weight on wheels and no anti-ice protection is currently on. We'll see that go away once we're ready for takeoff. Okay, so let's execute this. So, first thing, as I said, pusher. Increasing power. Starts to shake. Goes to the wall. Power to idle. Depress the pusher interrupt. Pull the yoke back. Put it back to center. Come upstairs. Release the pusher button. And release the pusher interrupt switch. Clears the cause. Clear your reset, pusher test complete. So real easy stuff here, guys. And let's keep on going down the line here. And then you would do the pilot not flying pusher test. We won't worry about that. Avionics set. So we've already set our transponder. We're gonna make sure our barometric pressure is set. We could do the flight plan, but we're gonna wait till after this. We would set our runway heading here. So first thing that I'm going to do is switch the aircraft into GPS mode, because we're going to want that, obviously. And then we need to set our heading bug to the runway. Give me a second while I look at Navigraph to determine what that is. Alright, so we are going to be departing from runway 10 today. So we're going to set our runway heading at, where was it? 101 degrees. So let's do that real quick. I can't remember. Do I already have this set? Oh, that's my altimeter. Whoops. Should have that. Maybe not. Alright. Thought I had the heading bug set. Is it over here? No. Damn. Well, at least I have the altimeter. Oh, you know what? I think the other one is my altitude pressure. I'll have to set something for the heading bug. 101. And is that actually working? Let me see this real quick. No, that one doesn't. Oh! Looked like it started to. Oh well. Alright, moving on. So we have our heading bug set. let's check the rest of our avionics here. We can set our initial climb altitude. We're going to go to 9,000 feet. I'm doing a couple of these out of order, but they're in the same checklist. We're going to set our climb rate at 1,200 feet. Go back there, go to arm. Let's go ahead and set our pressurization. We've already got our transponder ID set. Pressurization today, we're going to go to 18,000, so we're going to set it to 18.5. Actually, let's do 19,000. We'll go to 19,000 today. So again, we're going to set it 500 feet above wherever we're going. And that's the same thing on the descent. So if you're coming down to sea level, which we are, we're going to do sea level plus 500. Cruise altitude plus 500. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and come up. So let's run through this again. We'll just make sure we got everything. We have the inverter switch. Pusher test is complete. Avionics are set. Autopilot trim test. Let's do that. You can see the autopilot trim.
Warning, autopilot trim.
Okay. Autopilot trim test complete. Cabin controller pressure has been set. Transponder flight ID is set. Altitude pre-select and climb rate is set. AHARs 1 and 2 are as required. Where was I? Fuel quantity totalizer is checked and verified. Cause is appropriate with only the AOA de-ice. So we are looking good. Let's go ahead and turn flight directors on. And we can now move to the taxi checklist. For the taxi checklist, flight controls free and correct. Everything looks good. And yes, you guys, the PC-12 is one of the few aircraft that has a rudder yoke interlock. So when you turn the yoke in real life, in the rear aircraft, the rudder also moves. Same thing, obviously, if you move the rudder pedals, the yoke really does move in real life. This does reduce the faster you go, and once you're in the air, the effect does reduce slightly. All right, so let's see here. Where were we? Let's continue our taxi items. So flight controls free and correct. Flight instruments are checked. Flight directors are on. Altitude pre-select set and armed. Heading bug set and armed. Let's go ahead and arm heading mode just in case. There we go. Electronic trim is set for takeoff. We just want 3 green. 3 green, good to go. Electronic ground proximity warning, or EGPWS. Go ahead and depress this button here.
EGPWS. System OK.
Crew briefing complete. Crew briefing for us today is we're going to fly. Now, there is one big critical thing that we haven't done yet. Again, I would normally do this as soon as I get into the aircraft. I flip the standby battery on, but we need to set our flight plan, so let's go ahead and knock that out. By the way, you guys, I am using the Flight Sim Builder GNS 530. I highly recommend it. It is significantly cheaper than its competitors. I've been using it for about 7 months now, give or take, and it is fantastic. It is a wonderful device. I also have the Flight Sim Builder G1000. However, I will be honest, and I do find, although they are both fantastic, I have no issues with it, but I use the 530 more than I use the G1000, and I think that's just because I'm sort of, I got over glass cockpit, so that's the only reason why. So let's go ahead and get moving here. We're going to start with the flight plan here. We're going to push our cursor in and let the games begin. Now, you can also, for entering the flight plan, and actually I should probably go back to our guide for that because I don't memorize it by heart yet. Let's see here. There it is. Okay. For entering the flight plan, entering the waypoints, I can either use the rotary, or in this case, to save you guys time, we're going to start with just this guy here. Oh, I just realized the wrong waypoints are up there. Son of a gun. All right, well, I'm going to have to fix that. Everything's right except for our departure airport in the guide. So the guide will actually set you to an airport that is literally right next door to this one. It's just a bit smaller. TJSJ, that's right. So TJSJ, everything else about the document is complete. It literally just when I made the doc, I flew out of an airport that is right next door. It's a bit smaller. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. And we are going to TNCM. And I guess in this case, we'll go ahead and show everything. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Clear, clear. We want TNCM highlighted. And then any waypoint you put in will go above whatever is highlighted on the GNS 530. So let's begin. There we go. So we're going to start with Isla. Enter. And we're going to go here. And we're going to... Oh, that is wrong. That is wrong. That is wrong. So we skipped a waypoint. Let's go up here for a second. There we go. And we need this one in first. SJU. There we go. And that's the screen I was expecting to see. Let's go back to TNCM. All right, and now we are at Fajar. And this is a feature of the working title GNS 530 that can be downloaded for free in the marketplace. Highly recommend it because it makes things significantly easier to type in. I like everything else about using the flight sim builder, the physical device, but entering the waypoints, I can only, I mean, I would hate it in real life, clearly, because I'd have to do the same thing. So when I can use the keyboard, I'm going to use the keyboard, man. Just makes things a lot easier. And yeah, I should have definitely done this before engine start, because now we're sitting here burning fuel. But the beauty about flight simulation is we can always add it back in if I need to. But we have plenty of fuel to get through, so we'll be fine. Gable. And then PJM is the VOR at St. Martin. All right, let's go to our procedures. Select the approach. We're going to do the RNAV 10. And we want Gable, there it is, as our... And we're going to load it, but we obviously don't want to activate it. And it should be good. Let's go back to flight plan here. I like to use the first page, but you guys can feel free. The reason why is, and you can change these fields. It's just a pain in the butt to do it, again, with the GNS 530. But I like it because you have your ground speed indicating, so it's great for taxiing, and then you have your vertical speed rate required for descent once we enter that, which you guys will see later. But there we go. And then here, like, for example, I'll probably take this one and usually move it to, like, the waypoint list. That'll work. That'll work. All right, guys. And so that is it. We got our flight plan entered. Before taxi checklist is complete, let's do this. So moving to the taxi, the only other thing that we need to do now is go upstairs. And actually, you know what? I am missing something. So I'm going to run through a checklist again. I think I got a little frazzled. Yep, I did. After start checklist, cooling and heating. So cooling and heating, let's turn those on. Obviously, and then I forgot this. Again, remember, don't forget the sim crash, so I have to catch back up again. Standby buses off, external power off, cooling, heating, EPS light out, flaps on. Okay, we got everything else. All right, that was it. So the only thing I forgot, but I always like to check my overhead panel, and there we go. Taxi light on, ready for taxi. Let's do this. All right. So we're going to add some power and taxi out right behind what looks like, what is that, A330? Oh. There. Oh, it's because I flipped it earlier. I know. I did that on accident. But I remember doing that. Sorry! Who stands in front of a starting airplane? Alright, so we'll taxi out to our runway. We got a couple aircraft we got to wait for. That's kind of fun. And right now, as you guys may or may not know, I had a hard drive failure a couple weeks ago. And so I still don't have all of my live traffic and things like that turned on. So this is actually just the simulator traffic right now, which is cool. He's rolling. Always take off flaps 15, so we're already set for takeoff in that aspect. We need to, we'll be turning on some lights, double checking a few things, but we're pretty much ready to go. So let's see here. Final items are going to be flaps 15, lights as required. So again, that's going to be our takeoff lights, recog lights, strobe lights. Anti-ice, we're going to turn our probe heats on and make sure the inertial separator is still open, as well as left-hand, right-hand windshield anti-ice. So we'll be doing that here in just a second. Go ahead and park it here. Reset that parking brake. And while he's getting ready to go, let's go ahead and do this. So, final items. Flaps 15. We can verify flaps 15 here. Lights as required. Let's go upstairs. Landing lights on. Strobe lights, recog. Wing lights only in icing conditions. All right, and then left-hand, right-hand windshield and probe heats are on and ready to go. And finally, last step here is condition lever to flight idle. Cause appropriate, which is now clear because we turned the anti-ice on. And there we go. This guy's going, so we're going to line up and wait. Now, when you take that condition lever to flight idle, be ready because that engine power is no joke, man. It's ready to go. Requires no throttle to get taxiing. All right, heading bug. Let's go ahead and center it. There we go. Altimeter's check. Green, green, green. Everybody's good. Transponder to altitude reporting. And that is it. So now we are going to be looking for 36.9, or excuse me. Well, yeah. No, 44%. But basically anything above 40% torque, you're good to go. So slowly advancing the throttles, or throttle. There we go. Looking for 80 knots for rotation. Airspeed alive, 50 knots cross check. There's 42. 44 coming back a little bit. 80 knots pass. Whoa, got a little fast. That was my fault. Looking for about 7 degrees on the climb. Yaw damper on. .400 feet AGL, flaps up. Now I'm going to go ahead at this point and just go nav mode, autopilot on, heading mode disabled. And I'm also going to go into vertical speed, engage, switch it back. 1,200 feet verified. Landing lights and taxi lights are on the landing gear, so as soon as gear's up, landing lights, taxi lights can come off. Climb power, we're looking for 36.9% engine torque, so we're going to bring that back just a hair. And again, this is all ish. You're not going to miss out on a ton of torque here if you're slightly off. Remember, as you climb, the ITT will increase, the air gets thinner, doesn't cool as well, gets hotter and hotter, blah, blah, blah. So we always want to keep this below 750 degrees. And I think today I'm going to go ahead and expedite the climb just a little bit. Let's go ahead and go to 1500. I want to get a little higher, faster. And make sure you always switch this back. If this ever starts blinking at you, it's because you're still in vertical speed select. We want to take you back to your altitude target. So now just do a final check of after takeoff. So we've got our final items that we completed. So now after takeoff, his landing gear is up, yaw damper is on, landing lights and taxi lights are off, flaps are 0, ice protection is set as required, climb power is set, pressurization, aircraft is pressurizing, and engine instruments all looking good in the green. .6,500 feet is transition altitude in this area or region of the world, if you will. So at 6,500, we'll switch over to 29902. I'll see you guys up at cruise altitude at 19,000 feet. The only other thing that I'm going to do is at 10,000 feet, we'll come up and we'll turn the recog lights off. That is the only other thing. So you guys aren't going to be missing much. So again, 10,000 feet, recog lights off, 6,500 feet, standard pressure. And other than that, we'll let her climb. Now, something I actually just thought about that we can do while we're in the climb. It's not going to hurt anything. Let's go ahead and set up our VNAV profile. So I'm going to go VNAV over here. We're going to push our cursor. Now, target altitude. Our initial approach fix is a Vaki, and altitude requirement is 2600. So I'm going to change the window. There we go. Make that 2. Okay. And then where we want to be, let's do enter. 4 miles before, that's fine. Oops. And let's find a Vaki. There it is. And our descent profile, we're going to descend at 1200 feet. We actually may descend a bit faster than that, but I do like having this here. And then simply press the VNAV button again, and you guys can see what I was talking about earlier. Right up here, you have your vertical speed required. If we were to descend right now, we would only need to descend at 127 feet per minute to get there. So, we're going to leave that as is. And let's go ahead and bump the range up a bit. There we go. We're not going very far, so let's leave it right about there. I'm good with that. There we are. All right, I'll see you guys up at cruise. Well, actually here, we're hitting 10,000 feet, so we'll come up here and we'll turn those recog lights off. Now, literally the only thing that we have, oh crap, I forgot, damn it. 1,000 feet, inertial separator off, guys. At 1,000 feet, inertial separator should have came off. Coming up over here, monitor your torque when you turn the inertial separator off because it's going to increase engine power. Notice that our temp, we're approaching 740. I'm going to bring it back just a little bit. Get that ITT down. I like to stay around 720, 725, somewhere in there. Remember, 750 is the hot zone. 750 is a no-no. All right, so there we go. We're going to leave it right about there. Keep monitoring it as we continue to climb. All right, so we are now up at cruise. So let's go to our cruise checklist. Cruise power, we need to set. So let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to do that. First, we need to determine what the outside temperature. Holy crap, it's cold. -9 degrees outside. So let's scroll down. And we're at 19,000 feet. These charts are in the guide, you guys, that I'm using. So 9 degrees at 19,000 feet. We should be at 30.3. Close enough. All right, go back to the checklist. So, cruise power set. Fuel is balanced, sufficient for the flight. Engine instruments are checked. Pressurization on point, no longer climbing. And cabin temperature is appropriate. Yeah, I don't care if they freeze. They'll sleep better. I know that was an awful thing to say. Another good habit to get into that I am trying to force myself to, I haven't been in the habit of it, but once you turn on course, is setting your heading bug to match it in case something happens with the navigation. You don't lose all control of the aircraft. You can quickly go into heading mode, and you won't have to worry about it. So once the aircraft levels out, not sure why it made that turn like that, but you know, let it turn back there. I think they're working on their own custom autopilot right now, guys. But I think right now it's using the default. So there we go. We'll center that. Close enough. Maybe center it one more time. There we go. All right. And that is it. What we're going to do as far as our descent. I want to descend a little bit faster. We want to ride the speed tape, and I'm going to show you guys what that looks like here. So remember we said 1,200 feet is our desired descent rate. When this hits about 1,000 feet, I'm going to start my descent. Okay, I don't wait for it to hit right on the money, and that's because we like a fast descent. I've seen multiple videos, as well as talking to, again, my real-world pilot. They typically put this plane down. And the reason why they ride the speed tape, and what we're going to be talking about, is the I can't remember what that's called, the bar, the red bar, but we're basically going to put the speed or airspeed indicator right next to that, and we're going to descend as fast as we can. And the reason why is because you burn so much fuel and so much time and money essentially on the climb that you can make it up in the descent pretty easily by getting your butt back down on the ground and ready for the next flight. So that is pretty much it, what we can do now. is we'll go ahead and set our descent altitude. So I'm going to set us all the way down to the 2,600 foot mark. Not going to worry about setting my vertical speed yet, but I will lock in our target altitude on the descent there, so it's one less thing we have to worry about. Alright, and let's see here. That is it, you guys. The only other thing that we'll have to do once we start the descent is set the cabin pressure. So I will see you guys when it's time to descend. Alright folks, so we are getting close. You guys can see here we're at 940 feet required. I like to descend a little bit about 200 feet before is what I have found the best for me, especially with as fast as we're going to be descending if all works well here. So let's go ahead and start getting ready here. We can go ahead and start our descent now. We're about 50 feet ahead, but give you guys the idea here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove altitude hold here. I'm going to go over to push our button here, and I'm going to move this down, and we're going to descend at our 1,200 feet per minute. I'm going to hit arm and engage. There she goes. Nose going down. Come down here, set our pressurization. We're going to do sea level above 500 or plus 500. Cabin is depressurizing. So there's sea level. So now we're going to move right about in the middle, 500 feet. Okay, and by the way, this is the rate at which the cabin will change pressure, and this is manual cabin pressure change, which we don't ever touch. All right, so there we go. We're on our way down, and I'm going to increase power slightly, still watching our ITT, but I want to get as close to the barber bar as I can here. As we descend, the ITT should come down, and we'll be able to increase power continuously. Alright, so now going to the descent checklist. We've obviously initiated our descent. We have our altitude target set. The next thing I'm also going to do is I'm going to go over to our... Oh, and the aircraft is pressurizing. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. We're going to go direct, and I'm actually going to set us direct to Avaki now. Now, you don't have to do this. You can follow through with your flight plan, but this is where I want to go. Hit enter and activate. That way we are at 2,600 and our final point is at our initial approach fix. Next thing that we're going to be doing is at 10,000 feet, we're going to be turning our recog lights back on. Landing and taxi lights, you can turn them on ahead of time. Just remember they are attached to the landing gear. The other thing we'll be doing at 10,000 feet is turning the initial separator back on. And that's just so because we're a single pilot flying, so it's to stay ahead of the game. Same thing with the landing and taxi light. Anything that you can do to make things easier for your flight. Remember, you don't have a co-pilot. There is no one else here with us, so everything has to be done by you. So don't be afraid to give yourself some time, especially when you are learning the aircraft. Go. Descent is looking great. And we are shooting our way down, and I think I'm actually, we could even do the same if you want, just to show you guys. You can even increase that further to 1,500 feet per minute, just like we did with the climb, and expedite the descent. The choice is yours. We did descend almost 300 feet, about 250 feet ahead of schedule per minute, so you have plenty of time to work with. Anyways, guys, I will see you right before 10,000 feet. Again, transition altitude, I believe, out here is 6,500 feet, so we're still ahead of the transition altitude, so we'll keep things as is for the moment. Last thing I wanted to add real quick on that, guys, we can follow the barber pole up to the red line. Obviously, we don't want to redline the aircraft as the VNE limitations, so the maneuvering speed limitations is right at that red line. So if you start approaching that like we're doing right now, I'm going to pull some power off and slow the airplane down a little bit. Okay, but I like to be close to it. I've learned the value of it, and after watching and hearing from real-world pilots, it seems like it's what they all do. So anyway, I did want to clarify that don't follow it past the red line. All right, so we are still descending like a bat out of hell. We're at coming up on 10,000 feet, so go ahead and execute that. Taxi lights, landing lights on, recog lights on, initial separator open. All right, and we'll also go ahead and activate the approach. So I'm going to come over here, go to procedures. Oops, there we go. Activate approach, yes. Zoom out. Oh, it's going to take us back. Maybe I don't want to do that. I'm sorry. Got ahead of myself. That's what I get. That's what I freaking get. Ah! Enter! Enter! Go! Go back! Oops. Got ahead of myself. Got ahead of myself. Got ahead of myself again. Too soon. Sorry, plane, but that made you mad. Alright, watching our airspeed, still looking good, and down, coming down to 9,000 feet. Tell me that isn't a cool shot. Alright, I'm going to start pulling some speed back, start slowing us down. $6,500. Set our barometric pressure. And turning on our final approach course. We're going to set us down to 1,700 now. Altitude requirement for Lessor, which is the next waypoint. I'm going to increase our descent rate a little bit. Pulling power back further. Hope this weather doesn't screw up my visual approach desire here. Almost idle at the moment here. Looking for about 177 knots. We are high. I may have to spin this one. I'm going to drop flaps 15. You know, it's the second time the VNAV has screwed me up here. So I think what I'm actually going to do, guys, I'm going to spin us real quick. Rather than try to risk this. So let's go ahead and turn it around. I'm just going to set a reciprocal heading and then come right back around. $1,000 to go, but let's do this. Let's reduce that descent rate now. Yep, I know. I'm working on it.
Sync rate.
Let's add that power back in now. 177 knots. Gear coming down. Rather get it right than rush it and get it wrong. And now I'm going to spin us right back around to our approach course. So we just missed a little bit. I think I didn't descend fast enough for as fast as I was going. I should have slowed the aircraft down. But that's learning. So that is definitely the problem. I was traveling across the ground too fast to support the descent rate. I'm going to come out of, let's see here. Not yet. Come around. Turn autopilot off, yaw damper off. Let's bring the aircraft around. Get back on course. We're going to go flaps 40.
Warning, essential bus.
Oh, I hit something I didn't want to hit. What the heck happened there? Oh, I know I did. I hit the condition lever, not my flaps lever. Don't do that. That is not how you fly it like a boss. Oops. Oops. Trim the nose down a bit. Landing checklist. Landing gear 3 green, foot brakes good. I got a little low. Looking for 80 knots on the approach. Autopilot yaw damper are off. Cabin pressure is good. Ah! Stupid Microsoft. I hate that when you move the camera, you lose the ability to control all of your controls. Wow, this is a nasty crosswind. Holy crap. I can't say I've ever done a crosswind landing in this aircraft before, but we're about to. This thing is crabbing. See if we can get it back on glide slope. Holy cow. There we go. There's the glide slope. This is going to be brutal. This is wicked. A little low now. Crossing the threshold. Throttles to idle. And flare it. That left wheel come down first. Ah. Not bad. Not bad. Oof, that was a wicked, wicked crosswind. Holy cow. Alright, let's completely exit the runway, and then we will work on the after landing checklist. Alright. Alright, so now for the after landing checklist. Let's take a look here. Now, we did technically miss the approach checklist. That didn't go quite as planned there. But we had recall lights on, the radios were set, altimeters were set, pressurization was set, inertial separator was open, crew briefing was completed, so we're good there.
Warning, trim.
Oh. Stabilizer trim. I will say the trim on this aircraft takes a while to respond, but we just need to get it in the green and the red light will go away. Almost there. And I'm just using this button because it's easier at the moment. There we go. All right, back in the green. Okay, so now let's do the after landing checklist. Condition lever goes back to the ground idle position, and don't shut it off in mid-flight, as you guys learned. Flaps need to go to 0. Exterior lights, as required. The only thing that we're going to want right now is, so we want that off, beacon light stays on. Oh, taxi light stays on, landing light gets off. All right, and let's see here. Let's look at what else we had after landing. Ice protection off. So probes off, windshield off, left windshield off. Inertial separator does stay open. All right, and let's see here. Weather radar, if being used, goes to standby, and trim would be set for takeoff. All right, so we are ready to taxi to our parking. Let's see where I want to go. Let's park it over here. Can also turn our flight directors off now. That was a tough landing, man. I was not expecting that. Of course they're going to drive right at us. Why wouldn't they? It's a good thing there aren't any damage models. That's why I normally turn AI traffic and things off. It's just, they get annoying. They're such an immersion killer because of the weird crap they do. Let's just put it right over here. Looks like a helicopter parking, honestly, but I don't think so. Alright, we're just going to put it right here. That works for me. Alright, parking brake set. Alright, so now for the shutdown checklist. We have parking brake is set. ECS goes to off, so environmental control system off. Taxi light off. Transponder off. Cooling and heating off. Avionics off.
Warning, avionic bus.
Generators, and just like with turning them on, you want to make sure you go backwards. So 2.
Warning, essential bus.
Then 1.
Warning, essential bus.
We're going to get a lot of alerts here. ITT, we want to make sure it's stable. Let's clear those master cautions again. It is stable indeed. And condition lever goes to cut off. Come up top. Beacon light gets turned off. Remember, we leave the nav lights on. Inertial separator can stay open. EPS switch goes to off. There we go. Control wheel lock. We want to put it on. So let's bring that back up. Let's grab it. Okay. Battery switch goes to the off position. We can turn our seatbelt signs off too. It's not actually on the checklist there, but we'll do it anyway. And parking brake is already set. Oxygen, passenger oxygen goes to the off position. And that one already went off manually. All right. So that is it, folks. And if you wanted to, we could go to the back and exit the aircraft. And there she is, folks. All wrapped up. And actually, there's one more thing we can do if you want to get really fun with it. There we go. Even put those back in. All right, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned some things about the TBM. Oops. I'm sorry, Brandon, about the PC-12. It is totally an absolutely fun aircraft to fly. I've really enjoyed the experience that I've been getting with it lately. The creation of my tutorial guide went way better than this flight did. And actually, this flight didn't go bad. I just descended way too fast. In my guide, I did not descend as fast. In order for the vertical speed to be more accurate, guys, if you descend what I have found right about around 200 knots, maybe 190 knots, it tends to work just fine. You're on point. Our issue with the descent was that we were moving across the ground way too fast. Either I needed to increase the descent rate or reduce our speed. So I just want to give you guys the heads up. Obviously, our forward momentum is what determines whether or not we hit our point at the right altitude. So given the fact that we were about 2,000 feet high, give or take about 1,500 feet high, again, I was just a little too fast. Our forward momentum airspeed was a little too fast for the descent rate. So I'm very well aware of what went wrong on the descent. Easy fix. And that's one of those things that I am learning that I imagine the same in real world. You sort of get that experience as you fly more. So anyways, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys consider purchasing the guide and joining me on Patreon. I do have this aircraft. I do have the TBM 850 as well as a guide there, as well as the TBM 930 if you're interested in these type of aircraft. And then obviously all the guides that spawned at the beginning of the video. So anyways, as always, folks, stay safe and healthy. I'll see you in the next one.